horror is such a it's a successful genre in film, and I think with the right kind of show, telling the right kinds of stories, a non sort of procedural kind of show that it's an incredibly rich world, and not unlike a show like Once Upon a Time, which is sort of which has embraced fairy tales and that kind of thing. That's what we're doing with our show. Is we're embracing sort of many of the tropes of horror and putting our sort of spin on them, and as well referencing some of our favorite films of the genre.
As far as Terry O'Quinn's character, is he who we think he is? Like the guy?
I don't know who you think he is, but he's not that guy.
He's not that guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that going to be definitively answered? Because I know a lot of people have been like speculating, is he the devil, is he not, is he just...
Yeah, maybe.
Well, as far as those movies that have inspired you, take us on a tour of your own kind of love of horror. What do you love, and what are we seeing in here?
Well, from the beginning, I was talking about films like Rosemary's Baby, The Shining, The Omen, movies like Blue Velvet, really psychological horror, psychological suspense, as well. The Birds, Psycho. And some of the other Polanski movies, and as well, I'm just a fan of the genre in general. Jacob's Ladder was a big movie for us, and one of the episodes that we're coming up, we're sort of kind of referencing that in a sense. But the idea is that I think everybody has it kind of in the back of their head what these movies are and what they represent, and even if you haven't seen the movies, everyone knows what The Exorcist is, everyone knows what Rosemary's Baby is, and that kind of thing. And so we can kind of embrace those themes and those ideas, and give people kind of, I think, give an audience the fun of what those shows are, but really specifically cater to an ABC audience.
And can you tease what's coming up in the next couple episodes?
What episode are we?
We're airing 3 tonight. So in tonight's episode, that will be airing in a few hours, we're going to learn a little bit more about Gavin and Olivia's relationship as it relates to their daughter that was alluded to in the pilot. We're going to dig a little bit deeper into Gavin's manipulation of Henry and his own political ambitions, and actually encourage Henry to take that first step in terms of going after what it is that we actually in the writers' room had talked about it as our crazy, what is the Crazy Stupid Beautiful? What is it? See that movie? Crazy Stupid Love.
Yeah.
Crazy Stupid Love, where it's like Steve Carell is sort of being seduced by Ryan Gosling about how to seduce women, and that was what we kind of used as the visual template for how Gavin is going to pull in Henry and bring him into that world. So that's in tonight's episode. There's the next episode. It's also, we have a resident of the week that starts in tonight's episode and will carry on in a 2-parter in next week's episode, which is a resident who discovers through Gavin that she has the power she's a reporter, and whatever she writes ends up coming true. And so she's stuck as an obit writer, and she sort of wants to challenge herself and starts making up stories and finds that they're coming true. And she ends up creating a character that is a very nefarious, dangerous character that comes into her world, and for the next 2 episodes begins stalking her.
And as well, Jane begins seeing somebody who is from her own past.
Yes, a ghost from her own past.
Yes.
And then for Halloween...
What's that? Well, it's a ghost, so I don't know which is a ghost, literal or figurative. I don't. Literally, she begins seeing
a young girl. Yeah. A young girl that's sort of part of the Drake, and in that sort of shining way.
And this is where we're really beginning kind of Jane's kind of arc into her own history and her own connection to the building. So
what I liked is what it seems to be is instead of going for the flat-out scare, you're going more psychological and subtle,
Yeah.
And I think that resonates a lot more.
We certainly hope so, and that's always our approach. And look, we can't compete with an FX or an AMC or anything. We have. We have broadcast guidelines that we're actually trying to make more of a strength of the show. Is like, if you watch Psycho or that kind of film, like early film, even Rosemary's Baby, like it's incredibly chilling. They're incredibly frightening, and they really get deep inside your head. And yet, there's no gore, there's none of that. So that's like, we think we can do that effectively, and that's really kind of directed our approach.
And even not just in a storytelling perspective, and also like the way that the directors are encouraged to film the show, and that we put the show ultimately together. It's not in like the quick cutty contemporary horror world. We're trying to like live in this suspense a little bit more in the execution of the show, and hopefully it plays tense enough that you're not like flipping the channel.
So if there was actually a portal to hell, okay, or something sort of the nature of the Drake, what is it and where would it be? Have you seen it? Like, is it in Jersey perhaps, or where might the portal to hell
Where does it
be?
emerge?
Yeah, where
we come
do you
out the
think
other
it is?
side, and
Yeah.
you're like, Jesus Christ.
No, that's more being John Malkovich.
right, exactly.
There are portals in this building that lead to all sorts of places, and
times,
like what Matt has said, what I've said is the Drake itself is this puzzle box. It is a place that is sort of endless in its labyrinthian kind of formulations, and that's the kind of thing that we embrace. We embrace it practically because it's how we can produce the show, and then we're also embracing it narratively because we think it's really fucking cool.
But have you ever been in a building that just really creeps you out, that just does not feel right for whatever reason?
Well, I've certainly since moving to Los Angeles, every house and every apartment that I've lived in is, they were all sort of built in the 20s and everything, and there's a lot of kind of creepy history. There's a lot of interesting things going on behind the walls of all of these houses, but no, I think I look at like the building and apartment building and everything. Like in many ways, it becomes kind of an extension of a character's psyche. That it really is the space that we live in is so much a part of who we are, and that's kind of been our approach to this is we want these apartments, we want the building itself to feel like a character.
How much of the season is mapped out? Have you mapped out the whole first season?
Yeah, we've mapped out like sort of tent poles along the way. We know where the first season is ending if we're lucky enough to get additional episodes. And we have our sort of big turning points along the way. So what happens kind of in the middle, to me, is the fun. We don't want to map every single episode out because the fun of it is kind of making it up as we go. As long as we're steering towards those major turning points and those tent poles, I think we're doing good stuff. And you want to let the show take on a life of its own, and you want the show to tell you what stories need to be told and where we need to focus, and that's what we do. So
Key characters, new characters coming up.
we have several new characters coming up. Henry acquires a publicist, kind of a public relations publicist, as he dips his toe into the realm of New York politics.
But it's an attractive female publicist.
Yes.
It's not just for the reasons of his career, but we've added some characters into the show to try and round out the romantic like Henry and we've always talked about Henry and Jane. Like usually in the show, it's like you have two characters that are apart and they're pining for each other, and you're like, will they or won't they? And the nature of this show is that the characters through which the prism through which you see the show is two characters that are very much in love at the beginning. And so it's sort of about how do you start to possibly bring them apart, but in a way that the audience still feels like drawn to them. So we've brought in some characters, the publicist for Henry, and then a detective character for Jane, played by Teddy Sears, who's excellent, and that's created a romantic triangle as well. And then also we have a very big piece of casting. Whoopi Goldberg is doing the show, and she's coming in and doing an episode of a resident of the Drake that's lived there for
like 25 years.
25 years. And,
Yeah.
like literally lived in the apartment for 25 years. Yeah.
So.
The show is actually darker than I thought it was going to be, which actually gives it
Good.
a bit more weight than I.
David's beaming.
I know. I'm like, that's.
So, how dark is it going to get? I mean, it's pretty dark already, but.
Well, it's dark. We want the show to be fun more than anything else. We don't want it to be bleak. We want it to be a fun piece of sort of pop horror. So for sure we go to kind of the dark place, but also it's funny. What's been interesting, I think, for us is as well, kind of getting reactions from our audience about the kind of the how frightening, how scary some of this stuff is, and it's all over the map. There's some people who go, I can't even watch it, it's way too scary, and other people go, it's not scary at all, it's like it sucks, whatever. But I'm saying it's all over the map. So we want to be true to kind of what we've established, and we want to be true to the story, the world in and of itself. And I mean, the nature of it is that it does go dark as well, but it's also like there's fun stuff to be had there. There's funny stuff, to be found there as well. And so that's what we want to do. And hopefully we're setting up the pieces on the chessboard well enough that when everything kind of begins intertwining and weaving, like you're just totally hooked. So I mean, it's funny, after 2 episodes, we're just getting going. I mean, is the thing. Like, things begin getting really, twisty and everything as we go. So,
guys,
Thank you, gentlemen.
I was going to say, you put together a pretty stellar cast.
Yeah.
How did that process go?
Very fortunate, very lucky.
Yeah, really lucky.
It was just about, it's a very, very good cast, but in addition to it being good, they have really good chemistry together, and that's something that we honestly just got unbelievably lucky with.
You found that maybe you're starting to write toward, Terry.
absolutely. But I mean,
do you find that maybe it's inspiring you to write towards some of their strengths, or?
Always. And I mean, we've done that from the beginning. We always tailor the scripts to suit our actors. I know.
Keep going. Keep going.
Don't leave.
As we talk about Brian.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
It was a real pleasure.
Killing characters off.